Republican lawmakers grilled FBI Director Chris Wray during a hearing on Capitol Hill today. He defended the Bureau amid Republican criticism. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins us. Scott, why did the committee call in the FBI director?
This is an annual oversight investigation. It's tradition. It's practice that's common here in Congress. But thankfully, Bob, there was a water break and an intermission because this was a marathon and an exhausting hearing. And having sat through most of it, this was as much a political proxy war as it was an actual hearing on the issues involving the FBI. There wasn't much discussion of the FBI's handling of its main issues: stopping gun violence, immigration issues, drug cases, firearms, child exploitation. This was a hearing with Christopher Wray in which Republicans were hitting him one after another on issues of politics, accusing the FBI and the Department of Justice of having a double standard, of going harder after former President Trump and his allies and conservatives than they do everybody else. Listen to this exchange between a committee Republican and Chris Wray as the hearing began.
4 out of 5 Americans said they believe there's a two-tiered system of justice in America today. They said that because there is.
The work the men and women of the FBI do to protect the American people goes way beyond the 1 or 2 investigations that seem to capture all the headlines.
Democrats spent a lot of their time at the dais accusing Republicans of engaging in conspiracy theories, throwing out double standards, and themselves politicizing the Department of Justice through their questioning. For 6 hours, Chris Wray answered questions without many big revelations we didn't expect when the day began.
Any real news here or just a back and forth?
I think it's a better indicator of where things are and where things are going than the grains of testimony Chris Wray gave. This is where we are 6 months before the first caucus, 16 months before the election itself, Bob, where everything in Congress, including a hearing over law enforcement and the nation's safety, devolved into talk about Hunter Biden and President Biden, Donald Trump, John Durham. This became a political proxy war more than an investigation and real detailed oversight over the FBI, a major law enforcement presence in America, handling real Main Street issues and Main Street cases. There's a lot more talk about Mar-a-Lago, records seized in that prosecution in Miami.
Turning to Alabama Senator, the Republican Tommy Tuberville, what's the latest with him as he faces backlash and criticism even from some Republicans over his comments about white nationalism?
For another day, Bob, in a U.S. Senate where 100 people believe they deserve a lot of attention, Tommy Tuberville is just standing beneath the brightest of spotlights all by himself. He is gaining so much of it. He's again trying to explain his prior comments that not all white nationalists are racist, saying his understanding now is that, yes, they are. And also trying to defend that bigger picture issue with the Pentagon, where he is still putting a slow pace, even a hold, on the promotions and announcements and appointments of senior military officials. He sat down with our David Martin tonight. Take a listen to some of this exchange.
Aren't you using these officers as political hostages in this never-ending debate about abortion?
This is a two-way street, okay? Again, if there was a problem that for readiness, if there was a problem for these admirals and generals, and they were really concerned about it, don't you think they'd sit down with me and say, let's work this out before we get out of this room? This is serious. It's obvious not serious because I've heard from nobody about this.
Late in the day, Virginia Democrat Tim Kaine was on the Senate floor, absolutely, unequivocally criticizing this hold from Tommy Tuberville, saying it really does impact military families, people who are counting on pay raises and relocations, impacting the spouses and the kids too. But Bob, there's a real sense here in Tommy Tuberville that he has amplified this argument. The reason he's got these holds in the first place, he disagrees with a Pentagon policy to pay for time off and travel for service members seeking abortion services. He really has raised the issue in a way that nobody else had. So for Tommy Tuberville, this is a protest without an end game, without an off-ramp, but one that will continue through the week.
Well, we'll see if any of those military leaders start to give him a phone call after seeing David Martin's interview. Scott MacFarlane, thank you so much for being with us.